What am I doing? Tfsa. This is about the Tfsa. I feel like the Tfsa is sort of the base account that everybody should have, and I generally say that. It's not very frequently that we have somebody that shouldn't have a Tfsa. I can't think of an example. So Tfsa, tax-free savings account, was started in 2009, and each year the government gives contribution room. So that very first year in 2009, it was only $5,000, and nobody got very excited except for the banks. So the banks marketed it as a savings account and paid a little bit of interest. And so people who got TFSAs that first year generally got bank accounts, and people who actually could have used them for their investments were not interested because their investments were doing better than the TFSAs at the bank. So still, older people, I would say, have this misguided view of the TFSA. TFSA doesn't earn much, or they'll ask you what the interest rate is on the TFSA. They don't understand the actual concept of the TFSA. So I always say tax-free savings account is misnamed. It should be tax-free investment account. And since 2009, every year the government has added room, and that room accumulates. So if you were 18 in 2009, that room is now 102,000, and next year it will be higher. The government will add more room. So every year you have more room in your TFSA. So if you've never had a TFSA and you were 18 in 2009, you have 102,000. If you are 18 this year, where the limit is 7,000, you have 7,000. I always do the concrete examples because people understand that better. So when you put money into your TFSA, there's no tax refund like you get with an RSP, but then you get to choose your investment. It's not a bank account, and we wouldn't want you to treat it as one. It doesn't earn a specific amount of interest unless you choose that investment. So you get to choose the investments that happen inside the TFSA. Then your money grows, and then you can withdraw. And you can withdraw for any reason at any time and pay no tax. So the TFSA is super flexible. You can use it for short-term goals. You can use it for long-term goals. You can use it for retirement. We don't want you to use it like a bank account. It's not. It's for saving for something. But it's super flexible, and it's good to have. If you have an emergency, you can pull money from your TFSA and you don't have to worry about the tax or any implications. Depending on the situation of the client, I would also say, so let's say you have 20,000 in your TFSA, you can pull that out. You could put it right back if you wanted to, because you're still under that $102,000 limit. But let's say, and I always give the big example, like I'll say, with our client base, we have a lot of people who have contributed every year. So although the limit is 102,000, we have lots of people that have 160,000 or 170,000 because they have put the money in there, they've chosen their investment, and it has grown, and they've never touched it. So if you contribute the maximum every year, and then you take 20,000 out to go to Australia, you need to wait for the following year, but then you can contribute your money back to that TFSA. So with the RSP, the contribution limit is used up the second you use it up. With the TFSA, the contribution limit is always there. So if you take that money out, you can put it back the next year if you're at the maximum, or earlier if you're not at the maximum. And that's how I explain that part. And then they often want to know, okay, what investments can I hold in there? They still have the whole bank account thing, or they'll say, okay, so what's the interest rate? Because the banks really market it strongly to be, like a GIC in there. We'll pay you 4% in your TFSA. So you have to overcome that because we don't market. So then it's explaining, well, we're going to choose, we've got all kinds of different investments in there. You could choose one that has a guaranteed investment rate, but there's other options too. So it's going through that and understanding that. And then I would say, in a lot of cases, I'll say, so the goal is to get this maxed out. This would be, in a perfect situation, you would have this maxed out. And you might be only starting with 20,000 right now, but then you want to keep adding to this. So when you have extra money, you can throw it in this TFSA. And in an ideal world, you would have your RSP maxed out and you would have your TFSA maxed out. Often just explaining the TFSA brings money from other places. Or people will say, oh, well, I have a TFSA already. It's got $10,000, but it doesn't seem to do anything. That's a chronic one. Well, I don't want a TFSA. Mine doesn't grow, or it doesn't earn anything. It's pointless. Well, yeah, because it's in a bank account at your bank. That's why it doesn't grow. So you have to overcome that.
Do you find that explaining it like that helps?
Sometimes you have to go back over it.
Yeah.
Like, then they'll say, no, I already have a TFSA. And they'll say, where is it? Oh, it's at RBC, but it doesn't grow. It doesn't seem to do anything. I don't need a TFSA. And then I'll say, okay, so what is happening in your TFSA is you chose the bank account. But there's all kinds of other options here, that will earn you actual money. So that's how we got our biggest client, was they had their TFSAs were maxed out at the bank and it wasn't earning, and they didn't understand why. And then they called. We had 80,000 in RSPs for them, and I put a video and sent it in an email saying, people don't understand that you could invest in your TFSA. And then they called. And then they said, by the way, we sold our business. Can you help with that too? Yes, I can. I explain, you're choosing the bank account. There's other choices. Your bank might not have those choices. We do here. And I leave it like that.
Do you, when you're explaining it as a one-off, do you not put the no tax refund when you put it in?
It depends how sophisticated. Like, if I'm explaining it as a one-off, it's often to a younger person who doesn't have an RSP, so they don't have the comparison.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's relevant, I would put the no tax refund.
Gotcha.
If it's anybody older, I also go through the beneficiary, and that the account can go tax-free outside of the will if they list a beneficiary. With the younger people, I just say, if something happens to you, your TFSA has to go to someone. Where would you like to leave it? But with the older people, I go into the beneficiary and the benefits of doing it that way.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other common, frequently asked questions you get?
No, just misunderstanding. So there's a lot of misunderstanding around the TFSA.
Where does that come from? Just bad education from the bank?
Mm-hmm.
From sales tactics from the bank and how they advertise?
Yeah, they started out marketing it that way a long time ago, and they still have lots of TFSAs that have a specific interest rate. Open up a TFSA with us and we'll give you 3% on your, but it's really just a bank account paying 3%. Mm-hmm. So you're overcoming, this is not a bank account, it's an investment account. If you want a bank account, go open one. But this one is for investing. And then the other problem is that people sometimes have opened them and don't really know that they're TFSAs. So then we're thinking that they have the full contribution room, and they don't necessarily, because they've opened one, but they don't actually know that they have a TFSA. And you guys know about the contribution room and the way that CRA puts it on the CRA website is not always accurate. So that's always a concern too, right? So I feel like I'm trying to always have people confirm with CRA before we contribute to their TFSA, or we just contribute the $7,000 for this year until they confirm. But the problem with that is CRA is often not accurate either. And like Mike, that we went to the accountant, got the TFSA contribution for both of them, and for both of them it's wrong. So like we're in April and the contribution is not right. So that's always a factor that you kind of have to navigate with the TFSA, I think.
And how do you approach that with the clients?
I just say we want to be careful not to over contribute. So then I say, do you have my CRA account? Most people do. I say, I want you to check your TFSA contribution limit before. They'll say, I've never had a TFSA. I've never. Can you just check? Because oftentimes they do.
The banks will have opened up accounts that are TFSAs, but they call them whatever. Okay.
Well, they might label them as a TFSA, but nobody has noticed because they use it like it's a bank account. So it's very different. Other questions?